I'm also just a health nut and really wanted a clean ingredient ice cream alternative that also had a respectable nutrition profile. I've always loved to cook and serve food. That's kind of my way of, expressing affection. But other than that, no professional experience in food. So I bought a 360-page textbook about making ice cream because it turns out ice cream is really a with the ingredients, there's several levers you can pull. It's got to be balanced. And that's part of what makes TruJoy yogurt so creamy and delicious. It's a Greek yogurt base. It's a full fat, 5% milk fat with real milk, proudly real milk from California. The real thing just tastes better. If TruJoy is going to last, it's going to be because it tastes good. And I'm optimistic. I'm obviously biased that we have a delicious product, but in time will tell.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Grace, and I am so excited to be back with another founder feature. Today, I'm talking to Charlie Gentry, the founder of TruJoy Yogurt. TruJoy makes delicious frozen Greek yogurt, and they were actually a 2024 Shelfie winner in the frozen desserts category. Their frozen yogurt is packed with protein and probiotics, but it's also simply delicious. Charlie and I talked about everything from the challenges of cold chain logistics to expanding into retailers like Whole Foods, and how he got his start by reading a 360-page manual on making ice cream. I hope you enjoy this episode, and as always, let me know what you think. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. I'm so excited to interview Charlie Gentry today, the founder of TruJoy Yogurt, which is a Shelfie Awards winning frozen yogurt brand. So welcome to the show, Charlie. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and TruJoy to our listeners.
Thanks for having me on here, Grace. Yeah, TruJoy Yogurt is an Austin, Texas-based frozen Greek yogurt brand. We've been at it about a year and a half now. I'm very, like you mentioned, very excited. We just won the Shelfie, and we're growing and excited to tell you a little bit more about our delicious and nutritious frozen Greek yogurt and where we're trying to take this thing.
Yes, I'm so excited to learn more. And I was one of the Shelfie's judges, so I got to try your delicious products, and they are so good. And I was thinking about how there was a phase that felt like there was a frozen yogurt shop on every single corner. And then that phase kind of ended, and I hadn't had frozen yogurt in a long time. And so when I got to try yours again, I was like, wait, frozen yogurt's so good. I forgot about this. And really, yours has a very actual creamy texture. It doesn't have that iciness that I feel like frozen yogurt sometimes has. But so I'd love to hear a little bit more, I guess, about why you decided to start TruJoy in the first place and what the journey was like leading up into a year and a half ago when you finally got to launch.
Yeah, so I too remember the days of frozen Greek yogurt or frozen yogurt stands on every corner, and they kind of went away. But also when we had those frozen yogurt shops every corner, you had to have it soft serve fresh there. You couldn't have it in a pint in the comfort of your own home and the convenience of your own freezer. So that was definitely part of the impetus to start this whole thing. And I'm also just a health nut and really wanted a clean ingredient ice cream alternative that also had a respectable nutrition profile. So, kind of at the very start of this whole project, I mapped out a target nutrition profile. And just a little more context. I was a geologist in oil and gas, had no real experience in CPG. Always loved to cook and serve food. That's kind of my way of, expressing affection. But other than that, no professional experience in food. So I bought a 360-page textbook about making ice cream because it turns out ice cream is really a science problem. With the ingredients, there's several levers you can pull. It's got to be balanced. And that's part of what makes TruJoy yogurt so creamy and delicious. A lot of frozen yogurts out there are, they're icy because they're, so they use non-dairy fat replacers or fake sugars, that just adversely affect the texture.
And you guys use just regular good yogurt, right?
It's a Greek yogurt base. It's a full fat, 5% milk fat with real milk, proudly real milk from California. And yeah, that's, the real thing just tastes better. And if TruJoy's going to last, it's going to be because it tastes good. And I'm optimistic. I'm obviously biased that we have a delicious product, but in time will tell.
Well, as a Shelfie's judge, as I said, we also can say that it's a delicious product. So you're not alone in that feeling, I will say. And another thing I wanted to ask in terms of the formulation of TruJoy yogurt is you use this real milk, Greek yogurt. And then what are the other elements you use to sort of keep that nutrition profile you wanted, but still have it taste rich and decadent and not have that taste of like, a fake treat? Like it still tastes like a really delicious treat. So what are the other elements of the yogurt that allow that to happen?
Yeah. So it's Greek yogurt, milk, cream, cane sugar, and then guar gum and carabine gum. And that's what makes up our base. The gum, some people like to snub them, but that's part of what, just during the logistics and cold chain transport, temperature shock, you've had sandy ice cream before, and that helps prevent that. It's all natural. And then cane sugar. So we use proudly cane sugar, about 50% less than a regular ice cream. And the sugar is important for two things. One, the flavor, compared to monk fruit or a stevia, it just doesn't have that after bite that has. And then the chemical properties of sugar compared to fake sugars are different. And that's part of what makes it scoopable right out of the freezer. And that was kind of a qualitative quality that the product had to have, is it had to be scoopable out of the freezer. I don't want you to have to sit this on the counter for 15 minutes before you can take a bite, because then you don't want it anymore.
Totally. You want it when you want it.
We've all been there. Yeah. And I like to eat my ice cream. I like to open the freezer, take a couple bites, put it back. No one saw it. Nothing happened. And get on with it. And
absolutely. A little bit of midday ice cream never hurt anybody. A little pick-me-up.
It's yogurt. You can have it for breakfast. We may not have had a little bit of peanut butter chocolate chip for breakfast dessert.
I love it. Okay. Well, so going back a little bit to some of those like earlier development stages when, you bought this huge textbook about making ice cream. Were you just like trying the recipes in your home kitchen?
Yeah. So it started, had my grandmother's, little freeze it and run it ice cream maker. I'm sure a lot of listeners have one of those, and just started throwing things together, took super detailed notes on everything. And really, because the base formulation is so scientific, I really kind of concocted it on an Excel spreadsheet to where you can map out the different components of the sugar, the milk fat, the milk solids not fat, etc. And then learn what levers you can pull and make a batch, freeze it, make another batch, freeze it, and then compare and contrast, take notes, and iterate. And after a little while, I said, okay, I got to buy a real freezer to see how that changes it. So I bought a commercial ice cream freezer.
Wow.
And it took a 20 amp power cord, and my apartment didn't have that. So I had to buy a generator too and run an extension cord through my apartment. And every Saturday morning, I'd fire up the generator and freeze several batches, and then put them in the freezer for hard freezing, and then see what would happen.
Wow.
And
did you ever have any like power outages because you were running so much power?
No. I mean, it was on the generator. It was more
right.
I was courteous enough to wait till 9 o'clock in the morning to fire it up on Saturdays. But
yes. Very kind of
almost
you.
Like had diesel in there. It worked.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so that was stage 2, I suppose. When did you feel like you landed on a recipe you were happy with? And then when did you feel like you were ready to maybe take it out of your apartment?
Yeah, so it all started, the whole idea was kind of born around Christmas time, playing around in the kitchen at home. And then probably 3 months into that, I bought the commercial freezer. And then probably another 4 or 5 months after that, going on 9 months, I thought I had a formula that was ready to go. And while I was developing the formula, I was still learning and feeling out, trying to find a co-packer that could work for me, and having those early conversations probably a little bit of faking it till I make it, which I'm kind of still doing.
I think most founders are.
Yeah.
And so did you find a co-packer that you could work with?
I did. Through a weird series of events, it's part of our formulation is really difficult to make. We have the live and active cultures, and there's a whole slew of dairy laws that require pasteurization. And it was real important to me that our finished product had live and active cultures, and there weren't many folks that could do it. So I was walking down the path of building my own ice cream factory, and because I couldn't find anyone to do it, and the ice cream machine salesman was like, Charlie, I know you're serious about this. I can tell. I can also tell you have absolutely no business building your own ice cream factory. I know some guys who have some capacity, and he introduced me to them. And that's who I've been working with, the guys who flavor, freeze, and package it in Dallas. And so we have two co-packers. Our dairy comes from a group in California, and they're the only people who can make it to our spec. And then so we ship our Californian dairy all the way or halfway across the country to Dallas, and that's where we flavor, freeze, and package.
Wow. That milk takes a journey, I guess. But
it takes a journey. Yeah. Hopefully soon we're sending it back to California.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that in terms of also just some of the challenges of cold chain logistics when you are also living in a very hot state. But how have you been navigating getting the ice cream distributed? And I noticed, TruJoy's in a bunch of retailers in the Texas area and other parts of the South. So how have you been navigating dealing with those cold chain logistics and getting it into retailers?
Yeah. So I spend a lot of time worrying about keeping stuff frozen. On the upstream side, it all comes to us refrigerated, so it's not a big deal. And then after we flavor, freeze, and pack it, you got to keep it frozen after that. So we've got a frozen storage facility not far from where we make it in Dallas, and we work with 3 distributors now. The big 2, Unify and KeHE, and that's who takes us to Whole Foods and Market Street, and now a bunch of now that we're in those distributors, a bunch of independents across Texas and neighboring states, and then one other regional distributor who takes us to Central Market. And so, after it leaves our warehouse, I want to say not my problem anymore, even though I worry about it, because, if it thaws out and refreezes and we have, a customer gets in a pint that's been thawed and refrozen, it's just not the same. It deflates and it's icy.
Yeah.
But
that's happened to me, not with your yogurt, but with my freezer broke once and all my ice cream, melted, and then I refroze it thinking oh, it'll be fine. And then it was just completely,
it loses everything. And it's a bummer. And, everyone else has to, everyone from Ben & Jerry's to myself and other, local ice cream brands, they all have to worry about it. So, and I'm lucky that I've gotten to know a lot of these folks, and we lean on each other. I mean, literally sharing frozen trucks from warehouses to the big distributors and everything else.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that as well. Those, the people you lean on, the resources you lean on, because as you said, coming from a completely different field, coming from geology, you said,
yep.
You're totally new to all this. So as you've been, as you said, faking it till you make it, what sort of resources have you relied on? It sounds like, fellow founders and things like that, but how have you kind of learned as you have gone?
Yeah, the founder network's awesome. I mean, they're the best. They're the only people who really truly understand what you're trying to do, what drives you, and they've been there before. They were dealing with the same challenge yesterday, and it's you just call them, network, go to Startup CPG has been a phenomenal resource, meeting people, or just get on LinkedIn and you make new friends. One of my best new friends in the business, she's got a frozen pizza brand, and I just sent her a note on LinkedIn once and talked to her almost every day now.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about starting something, I'd just encourage you to reach out and don't be a stranger, because someone's been there before.
Yeah. And you need other people, especially when you're working so much by yourself and, or you're on the phone with, partners or things like that, but you're sitting in a room by yourself for a lot of the day. So having other founders who understand, and it is such a unique path to be on, people who aren't founders, even myself, I've interviewed so many founders, but I still feel like I would never understand the actual experience until I was a founder myself. Although I don't know if I'll ever be a founder after hearing everyone's stories.
No, it's worth it. I mean, and if I ever forget, I'm lucky and my product is delicious and I'll just have a bite and remind myself why I do it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. I mean,
after a bad, unfun phone call, I'm like, oh, God, I'll go have some blueberry parfait.
Wow. Delicious.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, hopefully being in California soon, maybe. So could you talk a little bit about your approach to expanding in retail? And, obviously you're in quite a few in your region, but what's sort of in the works and how have you approached, bringing TruJoy into retailers in a way that's sustainable, but also, pushing the needle forward?
Yes, that's very much in a work in progress. I call it category review season right now. So we have a bunch of hooks in the water and we're off to a strong start with Whole Foods, and I think they're happy with us, and we'd love to grow with them regionally and strategically. I don't want to stretch ourselves too thin. We've had some early success. I'm proud and optimistic, but a lot can go wrong still. So definitely want to have a targeted approach with good retail partners. But we submit to category reviews. I'm not afraid to try and track down a category manager and send some emails. We're starting to talk to some brokers to help open some doors on that front. I haven't pulled the trigger there yet, but I think as we grow, they'll be able to help manage all these relationships because it starts to get complicated fast. Several distributors. I have my hands full with 2 big distributors with 1 DC of each, and as soon as we start multiplying, it'll be nice to have that.
We'll be right back.
Is your CPG business taking off? You can easily check off the EDI capable box as you break into retail. SPS Commerce is your gateway to retail growth. With over 1 million existing trading connections and counting, you get instant access to the largest network of up-to-date, mapped EDI connections to retailers, distributors, 3PLs, brokers, and other supply chain partners without doing any of the heavy lifting yourself. With over 20 years of experience, SPS Commerce is the partner you can trust to get you up and running quickly and be there to scale with you as you grow. Plus, their team of experts is available 24/7 for support, ensuring you have everything you need. Visit spscommerce.com today to book a demo or learn more.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah. And what's that decision like of deciding to work with a broker? Could you talk a little bit about that for any founder maybe who's listening, who's like, when do you need a broker and why do I need a broker?
Don't know the exact answer for when, is I think probably a workload, a function of workload. And we're about there to where I just can't manage the different relationships with retailers and distributors. So, I'd say once you're in going on 150 stores and have 2 or 3 DCs open is probably when you're going to need help, or at least that's what it feels like to me. And then it's also how fast do you want to grow? If you want to grow slowly and definitely, you could never have a broker probably, but they are going to open a lot of doors. And that's I kind of want to cautiously start putting the pedal to the metal. And I think that's why now is probably about the time for us to use brokers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure it's a little bit different for everybody depending on, if they're a solo founder or a co-founder and all of those many different elements. And I was laughing a little bit in my head of cautiously putting your foot to the metal or pedal to the metal because it's counter. It's an oxymoron a bit, but I think that's an experience that many founders feel as well, where there's this desire to push forward while also remaining smart and sustainable and, understanding everything that's happening. But another thing that you are expanding, we were saying before the call, is you were talking about some new flavor developments, which is very exciting. Could you talk a little bit more about those flavor developments and why you decided it was time to bring in more flavors?
Yeah, so we initially launched with 5 flavors, classic tart, Madagascar vanilla bean, blueberry parfait, strawberry, and lemon velvet. And then Central Market's been phenomenal to work with, and they said, can you fill a full shelf, which is normally 7 flavors? So I thought peanut butter chocolate chip and coffee would be logical next steps. And those have done really well. And I'm learning that customers prefer the more indulgent than the fruitier flavors. And for a whole nother, there's a reason we didn't launch with chocolate, and has to do with dairy laws, and we just weren't producing at a scale that made sense to do chocolate. So that's an obvious choice to add. So that's what's in the works, and mint chip. So very excited about both of those. And we're
Did you have to whip out the Excel sheet again to develop those flavors, or you haven't?
Really not. No. Once the dairy formula is done, it's done. And then it's a matter of how much chocolate or how much mint do we put in there, and you just trial and error. You put some in, not enough, add a little more, and too much, let's back off, and then give it to a bunch of friends and see. We don't have the resources for big focus groups to dissect how much chocolate is too much chocolate. So it's really just leaning on friends and family, and hope they're honest with me. But I think we got a winner.
Yeah.
More than milk chocolate. I want to do a dark chocolate one day too, but I think we're going to start with a lighter, milkier chocolate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then mint chip is going to be a white mint.
Wow, I'm so excited. I was saying this as well, but mint chip is my personal favorite ice cream flavor. So excited for that launch, and hopefully you'll be in more retailers soon enough so I can get it up here in Philadelphia. Yes, and I'm sure your friends and family love you because you're giving them free ice cream, or free frozen yogurt.
Yeah, so in the early days, they ate a lot of not so great frozen yogurt.
Right. They had to
actually shout out to my little sister. She's probably the most honest critic the whole time, and she'd tell me how it was.
That's important. And
she also does all our package redesigns too. It was kind of cool.
Oh, that's so cool. I was just thinking, as I was looking at your, if you're listening to this, Charlie has the TruJoy yogurt in the background of his video. And I was thinking that it's such a sweet design, and that your packaging is also really cute. So do you collaborate with your sister on that then?
She does now. Yeah. I had a branding group do our stuff originally, but now it's there. She does it all. And her patience might be getting thin with me. Yeah. I have lots of demanding, we got to adjust this just a bit more.
Right.
But she's been very gracious.
You've got your founder, idiosyncrasies. I don't think I could ever work with my brother, to be honest, but, kudos. And I'm sure that's a beautiful collaboration.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, well, I'll interview her next. So another thing you mentioned that I wanted to return to, because I don't always ask this of vendors, but I think it's important to talk about too, is like resources, right? It's something you mentioned, and how much capital it takes to grow a brand like this, and especially one that requires cold chain logistics and all of these things. So what, have you done any fundraising, or are you bootstrapping? How are you resourcing this brand?
Yeah, it's to date been bootstrapped.
Wow.
Once upon a time, I had a real job and was able to put some savings away, and I'm running on that. And then again, it depends how fast you want to grow. If you wanted to do if Sprouts and Whole Foods gave us the nod and you wanted to put the pedal to the metal, we'd probably be looking at raising funds. I think we could support a national launch of one of them now. Just the way we're growing and capitalize. But if you wanted to, do national blitz, and it's a working capital game, and you've got to support it with marketing. It's not cheap.
Yes. Speaking of marketing, definitely not cheap. What has been your approach to navigating the like wild, wild west of marketing and online ads and social media and just getting people to see TruJoy and then go out and buy it?
Yeah, being frozen makes online marketing tough. And, it's just, I would love to ship you pints, and we can ship you pints across the country, but it just you have to buy 6 of them. It comes out to probably $15 each, which is just not really sustainable. So all our efforts have been focused, boots on the ground. I spend about 5 days a week demoing in the grocery. And yeah, I'd like to up our digital game. And as we grow our distribution, there'll be more budget to do that. But when there's only barely over 100 places to go buy it now, it's hard to justify some of these big digital ad campaigns. But, hopefully these are problems that we'll have the opportunity to address in the coming year.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you just post do you like utilize social media at all on like not a paid ads level, on just like a posting about your brand?
I will post on Instagram some. Again, shout out to my sister for always being honest. She tells me to take about half of them down. And yeah, I want to take a more like educational approach to advertising and promoting our brand, and more than just pretty pictures, but teach folks why TruJoy is a more nutritious and delicious alternative. I think it's stickier than just a pretty picture. Doing that on a soundbite is tough. Trying to bridge that gap right now.
I mean,
well, LinkedIn is great, but that's kind of a business to business type sale, where it's a little more long form. But really want our customers to know that they're getting the live and active cultures. They're getting twice the protein compared to a regular ice cream or a non-dairy alternative, and the benefits of real milk.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is interesting that you actually have live cultures. So it's kind of like you're also getting like probiotics and things like that. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I
means?
mean, yogurt is literally the original probiotic source, which is pretty cool. They've been culturing milk since I think they traced it back to the Bedouins, like 5,000 BC or something. It's just, it's one of the original preservation methods. And that's kind of one of the taglines I like to use to describe TruJoy's: simple, natural, and timeless ingredients. Like, it's not playing into some new fad. It's just, these are simple, traditional things all put together, and don't fix what's not broken.
Totally. And I feel like there's so many different... Go ahead.
Well, I get this question too about the live and active culture. It's kind of crazy. They can survive extreme freezing. It's when you cook them, it's about 135 degrees Fahrenheit when they start to die off. So they kind of go into a dormant, almost like hibernation while they're frozen. And then they reactivate and come more alive once they're more at your body temperature, not even room temperature.
That's so interesting.
We're good.
I never would have known that or guessed that. I mean, I guess I did know that you can't get your probiotics like hot. You have often you have to like refrigerate your probiotics or things like that if they're in like the capsule form.
Yeah.
But that's super interesting, and it's cool that you're offering this like real food product that also tastes delicious, but is also good for you. And I think that's something that a lot of people want these days, is they don't want something with like scary ingredients where you're like, it's like a fake sugar replacement, and you're like, well, what is that meat? Like, what is that? And like, you can't read it.
If you can't read it, you shouldn't eat it. And then it's got to taste good. Even those alternatives, I'm biased obviously, but the finished product doesn't taste as good.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a better for you product's got to be something that you do want to eat. And otherwise you're not going to eat it, and you're going to revert to Ben and Jerry's.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And some of the, alternatives I've tried as well, which, no shade to these people, the texture is more like a mousse almost, which is great. And mousse is delicious, but it doesn't have that same feeling of eating ice cream or frozen yogurt. So that's I already said that, but I appreciate the texture of TruJoy for that reason. Another thing I had a question about, and I'm reminded as I'm saying the name TruJoy, where did the name come from?
Yeah, so the name was not my idea. I wanted to call it Atlas Yogurt, his Greek, Atlas strength, that kind of nerdy mythology. My mom said, well, why don't you just call it TruJoy Yogurt? It's yogurt spelled backwards, but with a J. I'm like, all right, Mom, end of discussion. That is one of the best, maybe most dyslexic ideas you've ever had, but it's perfect.
All right, people, I'm about to tell you about an e-com subscriptions contest with a massive prize. Did you know, for e-com brands that offer subscriptions, a single subscriber is worth 3 times as much as a regular customer? You can ask around, it's true. And that's why Recharge, the #1 subscription platform, is celebrating subscriptions with the Tomorrow Brand Challenge. If you enter this contest from January to June 2025, your brand running a top-notch subscription program that attracts and retains lots of new subscribers could win you the biggest prize in e-commerce history. It's $100,000 in cash, $50,000 in funding for a splashy marketing campaign, a team retreat of your choice, and even a couple tickets to see a big race out in Monza, Italy. That's a lot of stuff. And you know what? Even if you don't win the prize, you're still going to come out of this with a bunch of new subscribers and a stronger brand, so you can't lose here. All you have to do is head to Tomorrow Brand, that's TMRW brand.getrecharge.com to check out the terms and conditions and sign up by December 31st, 2024. I don't know why any subscription brand would sit this one out. Good luck!
Yeah, that's awesome. And no, I was kind of just thinking TruJoy was like eating ice cream is a true joy. But I love that it's yogurt backwards and with a J. And it's a really sweet name and definitely is seen through your branding as well, like the really joyful product, which I appreciate.
That's
so going on the
really
opposite direction from. Oh yeah.
Well, you really have to look for it, but there's everything I try to do everything intentionally. On our packaging, if you look, there's all these squiggles. But if you look at them just right, there's a little hidden smiley face in there, and part of the brand message is to be there's always a reason to smile, always a reason to be happy through all the clutter. Whether that translates or not, I don't know, but what I'm trying to do.
I mean, I don't know if I saw the smile, but I do feel like your packaging is very joyful, as I said. So it's felt in some way. And of course, you have a reason to smile when you're eating, delicious frozen yogurt. So who's mad? But yeah, so another thing I wanted to get into, and I like to ask this of every founder for the most part, which is what's been one of the most challenging things while you've been building TruJoy, and how did you overcome it, or how are you, still working to overcome it?
Yeah, we touched on this a little earlier, but the solo founder is tough. One brain plus one brain is more than two brains. So not having someone to bounce every idea off of is tough. But getting out there and just finding a buddy who has a natural wine business, or is making a peanut butter cup basically, or whatever, and y'all have similar things going on, so collaborate with them. And ask for help.
That just made me think
really,
that
that's really all you can do, and people are generous and willing to give it.
That's so true. And it made me think about another Austin-based brand, Wims, who I don't know if you know those people. They make Better For You.
We talked to Jesse last week. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I actually also interviewed them for the podcast. But I just had the thought, I was like, you guys should collaborate and do a TruJoy frozen yogurt with like their peanut butter cup mixed in.
That'd be fun. We did a demo side by side at the new Royal Blue that opened a few weeks ago, and their chocolate sauce. I don't know if you've tried their chocolate syrup yet, but it re-solidifies when you put it on top of frozen stuff. Really good. Really good. Yeah.
That's so fun. Oh my God, I have to try it.
Yeah.
That's another amazing Austin-based brand. So everybody who's in
the
tech search should go find Wims and TruJoy at their next demo. Yeah, that's so fun. And I think great advice as well, just to say like, hey, if you're a solo founder, that's really hard. And also go find other people because you will need them. And you really can't do it all by yourself. you would probably go.
No, you really can't. Yeah.
No. So we touched on this a little bit, but as we're nearing the end, I'd love to hear about what the next year looks like for TruJoy 2025. What's coming down the pipeline and what are your goals for the next year? And then also really the next 5, 10, lifetime of TruJoy. Yeah.
So, still have a lot of questions around 2025, and hopefully in the coming months, I have a better feel for what it's going to bring as category reviews come around. But I'm hoping we continue to fill out Texas with some, there's still some big stores here that we're not in. But then a push to California. We're part of the California Milk Accelerator program. And so I'm hoping that puts wind in our sails as we try and grow our distribution out there. With hopefully, regional, I'm hoping for regional launches with big national chains, but there's also a whole lot of regional grocers out there that I'd like to grow into. And
yeah, absolutely. And
then the 5-year plan, I do want to be a coast to coast brand. We'll see when that happens. I always say I can retire when we're $5 a pint everywhere. I really want us to be able to compete on price. It'd be affordable for everything. It's part of the company's mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by making the healthy choice the easy one. And part of being easy is it's got to be affordable for everyone. So we really want to, hopefully can drive our costs down and realize economies of scale so that, can be a Walmart product one day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a hard line to balance when you're new and young and, you want to be approachable and accessible, but you have to obviously,
and we're competitive on price with everyone at the stores we're in, which is super cool. We're sitting next to Jenny's and the same price or cheaper sometimes, which is probably one of the things I'm most proud of, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. So final question, if somebody came to you and was ready to start their own CPG brand in frozen or otherwise, and they said, Charlie, what should I do? What piece of advice do you have for me? What's one thing you would tell a brand new founder who was in your shoes, a few years ago when you started TruJoy? What's one thing you would tell them or one thing you would have wanted to hear from a founder?
I'd tell them to go for it. You're never going to be ready, and you just got to go, and you're going to learn along the way. You're going to fall and you're going to have to get back up, and you better be ready for that. Because it's definitely not the easiest path in the world. But if you sit around for years waiting to be ready, you're never ready. So just go.
That's so true. And, you could, as you said, wait around for the rest of your life to be ready.
Yeah, and you'll never know. You'll never know. And we've had a lucky start, but, we still had challenges.
Absolutely. Well, this was so much fun, Charlie. I hope everybody checks out TruJoy. And if they want to learn more or follow along on your journey, where can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow us on Instagram. It's just TruJoy Yogurt, and our website, it's easy, TruJoyYogurt.com. If you have any questions, reach out to me. It's just Charlie@TruJoyYogurt.com. I'm happy to help. And then, you can find our products across Texas and neighboring states at Central Market, Whole Foods, Market Street. If you're in Austin, Wheatsville, Royal Blue, Fresh Plus, Tiny Grocer now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Hopefully it's growing. Yeah, it's actually growing into Oklahoma as we speak with Reese's.
Oh my God, amazing. Well, if you're in Oklahoma, go make sure that they sell out of TruJoy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Charlie. It was a pleasure. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Grace. Have a great weekend.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, it would help us out so much if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I am Grace Kennedy, the editor for Startup CPG, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack. I'm always on the hunt for new and exciting brands to feature. And if you're a potential sponsor that would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our community on Slack, and you can sign up via our website, startupcpg.com.